So you see, I have been walking here in Orlando, and I stopped by this Oracle building, and then who do I find right here in the parking lot? Hey Ed, how are you doing, man?
Good to see you.
You know, this guy here is a guy that inspired me to do so many things. Hey Ed, are you doing anything right now?
Well, I got to do some email, but why don't you come inside and wait in the lobby with me, and then I'll come get you.
Okay, all right, that's okay.
All right, yeah.
All right, so okay, but before you go inside, can you just show me quickly outside here and how this great building is?
Well, this is the Oracle North American Support Headquarters. Did you get the sign there?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. All right.
So all the people here are supporting Oracle's products 24/7, 365. They're open nights and weekends, and next to the airport. So it's very convenient for me to park my car here and fly to Java 1 or TDC or whatever you have.
Cool. Excellent.
That's very nice.
Excellent. So is this JavaEE is built here then?
Well, it's supported here. WebLogic is supported here.
Okay, cool.
And the database is supported here.
And you work here.
And I telecommute and I come here occasionally.
And you're one of the guys doing JavaEE 8, right?
That's right.
So JavaEE 8, some of it's done here.
Some of it is done here in some sense. Yeah.
All right. So you know, I want to come on. Walk on.
Let's go in.
So tell me, you know, JavaEE 8 is made here. It's do you work on it full time, or it's just kind of like us?
Oh, it's definitely my full-time job,
okay.
And has been for a long time. And I'm very glad that I have the opportunity to continue to work on it because it's a great community technology,
okay.
And it's been a lot of fun.
And it's a technology that affects a lot of people, isn't it?
Well, a lot of people do use it, and it's seen as very popular. So yeah.
Yeah. So how do you feel creating a technology that so many developers around the world use it, and so many companies depend on, and you know, do you think about this when you're writing your code, or?
Well, definitely. I'll put it this way. I have a position where when I'm working on JavaEE, I know that there's a lot of people out there that are kind of obligated to use it because it was chosen as part of their stack, maybe before they even joined the project. So if I can make that developer's life better in some way, that's something that I'm happy to be able to do.
Okay.
Because, you know, there's a huge amount of technology choices out there, and a lot of times people will choose totally different stacks, and that's fine. But if you have chosen the JavaEE stack, I want to do the best I can to make it a good experience.
Right. That's very cool. That's very cool. And you think that you know, JavaEE is going in the right direction? Is going, well, let me put it this way: is JavaEE going in the direction that you want? Or it's
well, it's not what I want. It's actually what the community wants.
Good, excellent.
And so I think it is going in that direction, and that happens by us. You know, we've done numerous surveys for people to conduct to see what they want, and we listen to what the community has to say, and that's, you know, kind of what we're doing.
Okay, that's very cool. All right, so I think you're going through here, right?
Go in through here,
so let me tell you what. Do I need to go to reception to get my badge and everything?
Yeah, we do that.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So do you mind meet me inside them and we're doing a quick interview?
Yes, that sounds good.
All right. Okay.
All right.
All right. I'll see you there.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thanks, man. All right. So I'll sit with Ed in a minute and to get some very good things for you. See ya. Hi everyone. So this is Bruno Souza for So Java, and we are here one more on the interviews of our JavaEE, the next frontier, where we're talking about what's coming up with JavaEE, and you know, there's a lot of cool stuff coming up with JavaEE 8, and I'm here one of the most amazing persons in the Java land, I mean the Java world, and you know, this guy has been a good friend of mine for a long time. We've been going to events together. I've been to his house, and you know, he's a great person in lots of different ways. But specific to our case here, he's one of the spec leaders of the JavaEE 8 ecosystem. So if you guys here, that's Ed Burns. Hi Ed, how are you doing?
Very good. Thank you for having me, Bruno.
No man, thanks for being here with us. Actually, you should cheer, right?
Cheers.
Yes, cheers. Thanks for having us here in Orlando. So so Ed, you know, you've been you know, you're a Java developer, spec leads of the JavaEE 8 specs. You have been not only this, but you are a very strong community guy. You've talked to a lot of people. You participate in events. And how is JavaEE 8 coming along?
Well, we're almost done. You know, we're at the final gate here. A lot of the specs are, Servlet itself is in public review. JSF 2.3 is already done. We finished up in March. It's May now. And so now we're in the phase where we're doing these kind of interviews like you're very fortunate to give me, I'm glad to have here,
Thank you.
the opportunity to promote.
Thank you.
So with every release of the spec, it comes time to get it out there and talk about it and get it into people's hands.
Right.
And you know, we've long since switched into a transparent development model where people can technically get it in their hands whenever they want. You know, as soon as I write the line of code and commit it, they can get it. But a lot of times people were like, I'm so busy doing my day-to-day job, let me just wait for them to get to public review before I even you know, comment on it. So I was very honored when we went into public review. We started public review for Servlet 4.0 on April 20th.
Okay.
In fact, our public review ballot is Tuesday, tomorrow.
Yeah, okay,
Holy
cool.
cow.
All right.
Yeah, we are going to be hitting our public review ballot for Servlet 4.0 tomorrow.
Okay.
Probably before this airs, I would guess.
Yeah, well, yeah, probably before it is.
Yeah.
So
you already will have had it. But we got some, you know, feedback from Julian Reschke, who was one of the people who wrote RFC 7230, which is one of the HTTP 1.1 RFCs.
Okay.
And so I was so honored that he was able to, you know, that he decided to read our little spec and dive into the text and find this one little paragraph where he's like, this isn't quite accurate. So
That's nice.
We'll fix it. Yeah.
All right.
So my point is, even though people can get their hands on it a long time ago, most of the time they wait until it's fully baked, and that's fine. You know, we'll take the feedback whenever we can get it.
Right. Okay. And you think that so you mentioned one thing that caught my attention here. You said that, you know, you're in this very transparent process that when you commit a line of code, people can immediately see it. And you know, this has been going on for quite some time, right? There's been JavaEE has been a very, very transparent process. Right. You know, the RI Glassfish has been complete open source for a long time. So how it is to work on such an environment where every commit is actually you know, can immediately impact lots of people?
I think it's great. I wouldn't really want to work any other way. And there's many different reasons, but one of the most interesting aspects of this that I think it's just a really kind of crazy story to tell is during the JavaEE hiatus, the reason people were able to see such depth of like, well, gee, it looks like all the Oracle activity has dropped off was because of the transparency.
Right. Yes.
And one of our expert group members, Josh Juneau, did this very famous and influential blog post. And if you're going to Chicago tomorrow, you'll probably see him. He's in the Chicago Jug.
Yeah, I know.
But he did this blog post where he showed all these nice graphs of the commit log messages and the fact that Manfred and I had fallen off the radar. And it was in one sense like, I mean, he was very professional and diplomatic about it, where he wasn't naming names and saying, hey, it's all Ed and Manfred's fault. But at the same time, he was able to demonstrate, hey, look at this. And that really did kind of demonstrate two things. First, the community wants it, and they want to see it get done. And two, it was able to just be like, okay, well, we're going to play by our own rules, which also speaks to what has been happening at the JCP-EC recently with regarding Jigsaw. It was really the JCP in action, right? There was controversial voting, and issues were addressed and raised, and we're not just rubber stamping things. We're actually going through the process for real.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think that's once everything's transparent like this, it's even you bring in this whole discussion up right now. It's much nicer for you guys also, right? That you are able to participate in the community like this, and I think it's for all of us that we're seeing things from the outside. Sometimes it's kind of scary seeing the sausage being made, right? But on the other hand, we get the confidence that things are doing the best way possible, right?
Right. I mean, it is supposed to be representative of the community,
right?
And all the technologies that I've had the fortune of working with, it really is that. You know.
Right. And so since we're talking about transparency right now, I think one interesting move that you guys are doing almost as we speak right now is the move from Glassfish from Java.net to GitHub, right? So this past couple of weeks, Java.net has been finally turn it off, and you guys moved everything to GitHub. Is the move already happened, or?
Yes, it's already done. But not only is it moved, but it's also improved. And I'm glad to see that they did that. The team at India. I put out a blog post. If you go to ridingthecrest.com/blog, you can see my blog post. It's titled "So Long and Thanks for All the Commits."
Right.
And I thank all the people that did the migration there. So they improved the continuous integration process quite dramatically. So it, even though we're at the very end of the Glassfish 5 cycle, they put it in place to actually continue to grow it. So I have some metrics here to talk about.
Okay, cool. So, but so you're almost at the end of the process. You're putting Glassfish out the door, and during this process, you're doing this migration.
I know.
Was it crazy? I mean, did it?
It was a bit disruptive, right? Because it's like trying to change the engine in your car while you're driving down the road.
Right. Yes.
But we managed to really only lose like a week or two of developer time. And we were right up to the wire on certain aspects of it in terms of like the mailing lists, for example. We didn't have the full legal permission to use groups.io until like the day before Java.net was to go off.
Okay.
So we had to get that all,
All
because
right.
the one of the aspects of JCP that I don't think gets said enough, and it's a significant aspect that differs with open source, is the indemnification and legal aspect. If you're participating as a corporation in JCP, you need to know that your IP is going to be protected in such a way that you're not going to get sued for simply performing, simply getting involved.
Right.
And a lot of people are like, oh, it's open source, just put whatever you want out there. It's not like that, and there are rules, there are lawyers, there are lawsuits that happen. So we had to be very careful with that, because when you, as an expert group member, send an email to an expert group mailing list, that's IP, and you're contributing that IP on the basis of the agreement that you made with JCP. However, if we were to go to various online email list services, we would be subject to their terms and conditions.
Right.
So we had to actually work with the people who do groups.io and make sure that their terms and conditions could be amended so that they're compatible.
Oh, okay, I see.
So that was one hidden aspect that was totally essential and had nothing to do with technical aspect, but it was, we couldn't move forward until that was done.
And that's very important, right? Because the whole IP discussion is really important for everything that we do in terms, not only in terms of JCP, but the whole Java community. Right. Yeah. So let me ask one thing before you go to the stats here. You write the specification. You participate in several. Yeah. So you write and edit the specification for several Java technologies. And a lot of people think that because you're writing the specification, it means that you're just kind of writing documents. You're not a real developer, but you also create the Glassfish RI, right?
Right.
So
definitely.
how do you manage both the writing and the coding and everything? Do you think that for a developer this is a responsibility of the developers to doing the two sides of it?
Well, I like to think of it as being full stack before full stack was cool. But it's a different kind of full stack.
Yeah,
full stack now is like, I know all these different technologies. But really, it's a diverse. Really, I think full stack should be, and maybe we can get into this when we get to the skills aspect. But I think full stack should be diversity of skills as well. And I think the spec lead role is something I really am blessed that I've had a chance to work at, because you get to do all the different things. You get to be technical, writing code, you get to do technical writing, and then being able to take it out on the road and talk about it at conferences. You get to do that too. So it really does allow me to do a lot of different things, or approach the technology from lots of different angles.
Okay.
Right.
Very cool.
And another aspect that has made it easier is the complete maturity now of test-driven development technologies. That wasn't the case when we started out with this in 2004, but now TDD is assumed, and we've gotten to the point now where everyone is doing continuous integration and continuous delivery, and that I remember when that message was like just a new thing, and where people were like, oh, we have to do test-driven development. But now it's so kind of nice to see. Not only are people doing test-driven development, they have like, you're continuously deploying your code. So, and you can't do that without lots of tests in place.
Right. And I think that's an interesting thing, because the whole idea of writing specifications, writing implementation, writing the test for it. Right. This matches very well with the TDD process.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Excellent. Okay. So you're talking about this huge effort you did to migrate.
I'd like to thank the India team.
I mean, you in terms of the team, right? So
yes, right.
So the EE team did this whole effort of migrating. Was just Glassfish?
No, I mean there was tons of stuff here. So I don't know if this is backwards or what, but
no, that's okay. Yeah.
Does that work?
That works. Yes.
All right. I can't read it now because it's backwards, but that's okay.
Just kind of put it like this. All right.
You can see that there were 106 migrated projects, 40,000 JIRA issues. There was tons of stuff. So the heart of it was Glassfish and all of the JavaEE specifications, but pretty much anything that was on Java.net that was led primarily by Oracle was migrated over.
Okay.
So all of the code went from Java.net to GitHub. Some of it was in SVN, some of it was in Git. All of it is now in GitHub. All of the JIRA issues, with the help of a migration script that was developed by Brian Oliver, and further developed. And I think they had to get some people inside of GitHub to run it, to do some of the API work on it.
Interesting.
They had an API, but I think they actually had to change some things about it to make it work.
Oh, that's cool. All right.
Like we were the first ones to really use it hardcore in anger.
Okay. Yeah, because you're telling that you migrated more than 40,000 issues. Right.
Right.
That's crazy.
And there was one really funny experience I had. I was speaking at the GoTo conference a few weeks ago, and this Brian Cantrell from Joyent had given this talk about debugging in production, and he told the stories of lots of different outages he had. Right. And they had the big famous Joyent outage that was developed. It was due to a fat-fingered admin, basically. That's what they said in the register, anyway. And so later that day, I had my very own little mini outage, which was the JSF GitHub project was taken offline because there was an issue that went into the JIRA before it was when it was in Java.net, and when it was sucked over into GitHub, it flagged GitHub's anti-spam filter, because this JIRA was just spam. It was just like somehow spam got into JIRA, and when we sucked it from JIRA into GitHub, it flagged the thing and shut down the project. So I had to get on with GitHub support and say, hey, can you please fix this? And, so it wasn't like anywhere near the magnitude of Joyent's outage, but it was like just kind of funny to see my own little tiny one.
Okay. All right. So going back here to JavaEE 8 then.
Right.
There's one thing that we were discussing right before we came here, because Ed took me to have lunch in this amazing place, right? So we ate Peruvian food.
Yes.
That's very good. Thanks a lot, Ed. So one thing they were discussing was JavaEE 8 is coming along, but at the same time JavaEE 8 is coming along, there's this whole discussion around in the world right now about the use of containers and all the cloud discussions, and do our application servers even needed anymore, or application servers like the things of the past, and how does JavaEE 8 fit into this? I mean, it's really things of the past. I mean, are we just kind of keeping up with what existed before, or it's a path to the future, really?
Well, I think it's very important to separate JavaEE as the application server, which a lot of people think it is just that, from JavaEE as a set of community-developed and curated and interoperable technologies that let you develop in a cross-vendor way for the cloud. So if you look at JavaEE as those things, you can see it still has a lot of value. It's still, if you're doing REST in Java, you're probably doing JAX-RS, for example. So, you know, it has value outside of just the app server. And as we get more, well, it's all about commoditization, right? So the cloud, in my opinion, is really driven by the economies and the fact that the entire IT department can now be basically put into a service level agreement and sold on a per use basis. So once you've got that extreme level of commoditization, the runtime is not really a differentiator anymore.
Right, I see.
So what is a differentiator is the actual technology, the stuff that goes inside the boxes, so to speak. You know, the communication between the boxes is now pretty much commoditized. You're either doing REST or gRPC, for example. And I'm hoping to see some more diversity there. I'm glad to see that gRPC is starting to gain more popularity. If we get to talk about the Servlet spec, we have some stuff in there that might be useful from a gRPC perspective. So,
all right, okay. So you know, so basically, what you're saying is that you know, there is a lot of room for JavaEE into all this cloud discussion. And you know, so JavaEE both supports everyone that's doing application servers in all the application server market. That's still huge, but it also supports any of the new things that are coming up.
Yes, that's right. Well, there's overlap, right?
There's overlap, right.
Because the new cloud stuff, that stuff is moving at such a high velocity. I mean, there's no one that's going to be saying that we need to, that we can turn around whole big JavaEE style releases at a faster rate than we've ever been before. I mean, that's one of the things the micro-profile people are trying to get forward is smaller incremental releases, and I hope that that succeeds.
Okay, cool.
Because that's what cloud is more about.
Yeah. So since you mentioned micro-profile, how you know there's this big buzzword right now going on. There's the whole idea of microservices, right? And in a way, there's all kinds of ways for you to do decoupled services, and JavaEE has supported decoupled service for quite some time. But but every time we talk about microservices, people are thinking about, oh, you know, the service needs to be small and to be lightweight, and you know, how does microservice fits into this JavaEE world?
Well, I think Adam Bean has demonstrated quite ably that microservices do fit very well. You have to keep in mind download size, how big the download is to get the runtime is not the most important aspect at all of the size. I mean, again, if things are all commoditized and containerized to begin with, then you're not worrying about how long it takes you to download the runtime. But there is something to be said for keeping the services as lean as possible, because if you're paying for CPU, second or minute or whatever, you know, you don't want to be spending time starting up the JMS engine if you're not using JMS. So that's why modularity is super important. So having containers that you can scale down, that's a heavy loaded word. Having containers that you can only fire up the bits that you actually need is important. But that's traditionally been more of a vendor specific thing. So certain JavaEE containers let you do that better than others.
All right. Okay. And you mentioned containers. And does JavaEE has any special provisions for containers right now? Do you plan to have it sometime in the future, or it's like orthogonal things and it's not needed?
Well, no. I mean, a couple weeks ago we made some big announcements at DockerCon where we're having many different Oracle products that are going to be in the Docker store. And
that was very cool, by the way.
Yeah, we're excited about that.
It helps a lot, the licensing and everything. Yeah.
Right. So JavaEE is going to be in that mix.
Okay.
You know? So you could already get certified WebLogic container images in Docker Hub. So you could download those. You could in your Docker, you know, say from Oracle WebLogic, for example, in your Docker file, and you know, you're off and running and ready to run a JavaEE Docker container.
Cool. Yeah, we even wrote late last year. We wrote a series of articles. Me and Elder Moraes, the guy that's actually running the series of webinars here for SoJava, we wrote this article talking about JavaEE high availability inside containers in the cloud, right? So I mean, those two things match very well together, right? So if you guys want to take a look, so both the links that you mentioned before and the links to this article, we're just going to put here on the description here. All right, so kind of going into what's on the specification itself of JavaEE 8. What do you think are the most interesting aspects of JavaEE 8 in terms of new things or things that changed that will impact the developers more?
Sure. Well, let's take a look at that. So I have a slide here.
Okay.
That I can. You want to? Okay.
I can just do this. How about this? Yes. All right.
All right. So this is our overview of what is in JavaEE 8,
Yeah.
and the red boxes are the new stuff. And so Bean Validation and CDI, they're coming to us from Red Hat, and I really think CDI is a super huge and awesome technology, and I really would like to see more people doing it because I think it fits super well into the microservices way. I mean, if you look at if you take cloud and you take it to the logical extreme, you get this so-called function as a service thing, right?
Right.
Now, in function as a service, like Amazon Lambda, for example, in that you have basically some way to trigger a function and it runs in some kind of remote environment, and all of the dependencies and stuff are already there, like for you. Well, that really is just the extreme version of CDI, really, because CDI is all about dependency injection and defining the contexts and the different scopes. And so I'd like to see more with CDI in there.
Cool.
So the other ones we had JAX-RS, and we're going to be talking about that later. JSF, JSON-B, JSON-P. These are really important. I'm not talking about these today, but without JSON has become really vital in the microservice world. And if we don't have a good answer for how to manipulate and process it in Java, then we're not going to be able to survive. So it's important to have a good story for doing JSON binding and processing in Java.
Cool.
I mean, we've got it already, and most people just use Jackson anyway. But having it in the platform makes it more portable and easier to manage dependencies, for example.
All right.
Another one I'm not talking about today, though, is JSR 375 security. This is brand new, 1.0. They're in their public review soon, if not already. Perhaps they will be by the time you're watching this. And then we've got Servlet and JSF, which I'll be talking about more later.
All right. So let me. So basically, this diagram shows everything that's in JavaEE 8.
Yes.
What are the brown boxes?
The brown boxes are the ones that are having either brand new in the case of security or having significant updates in the case of all the others.
Okay, and from those, the ones that you're most involved on are Servlets,
Servlet and JSF.
Java Server Faces, and JAX-RS?
Somewhat, although only in the sense of being able to talk about it today. I've not done anything with actually the development of it.
Oh, okay. So Servlets and Java Server Faces, JSF, are the ones here. All right. So can you tell us a little bit about then, since those are the ones that you are most working mostly with, which ones, so Servlets, it's Servlet 4.0 now?
Yes,
right?
Servlet 4.
So Servlets 4, and Servlets is more like a infrastructure, it's more like a low level interface,
It is the
right?
oldest thing out there. I mean, Servlet even predates J2EE.
It does,
I
right?
mean, if you look at the Wikipedia entry for Servlet, it shows the whole version history back in terms of Java 1.1.
Yeah, I remember when Java Web Server came out, right? And so Java Web Server had this servlet thing that you could. The same was for servers what applets were for the browser, right?
Yeah.
So, and it was before it was even a specification.
Right, but Servlet, when I first saw it, it was like, well, if I was to do CGI bin in Java, this is what it would look like.
Right, exactly. Yes.
But much better and much nicer.
Right. Yes.
So
we're in version 4 of Servlets.
Right.
Is this? It's like a fundamental technology because a lot of things around JavaEE is built on top of that, right?
Right.
And
definitely.
what can we actually change on it at this point in time?
Exactly. It turns out the most important thing, it was kind of given to us by the IETF, and that is the HTTP2 specification.
Oh, cool. All right.
So this is RFC 7540, and it is the first major revision of HTTP2 in like 15 years, and they completely changed the underlying sort of network layer of it, but the semantics of HTTP remains completely unchanged.
Okay.
So they introduced a lot of things to increase performance, but they didn't change the semantic of HTTP at all. And because of that, we were able to expose HTTP2 and Servlet without any real big change. There's only one, kind of 1.5 new features that really surface from the HTTP2 API, and that's server push and also trailers. Trailers is really just headers that come after the body of the HTTP request, and those are technically in HTTP 1.1, but gRPC makes significant use of trailers in their binary wire protocol.
Okay, so basically what you're saying that you are able to implement HTTP2 without change, because I mean there's not a lot of things that developers are going to use, but just by using the new application server support in JavaEE 8, they're going to get a lot more just by using it, right? Exactly.
Like the server push feature is the biggest feature in the protocol that we're surfacing in Servlet 4, and if you are using a JSF on top of JavaEE 8, you're really going to get that performance boost completely for free.
Oh, cool.
Because in JSF, you're already telling the runtime what are the assets that go along with your pages. What are the images, style sheets, and scripts, for example. That's all already encoded in the JSF app. So the JSF app is able to say to the Servlet API, hey, we'll push these using server push. And that will save processing time on the client side.
Yeah, so server push is the technology that's before the browser start asking for the resources, the server's already sending it.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
The server knows what the browser needs before the browser even asks for it.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and so and you have all the information on the server anyway.
Exactly. So
without changing anything, you're just going to get that for free.
Right.
That's pretty cool. So I think that's one of the things that I like a lot about the Java ecosystem, because it happens in many different situations where we change the underlying implementation of things, of the Java VM, of how application servers work, or how some kind of technology works, without any change on the application itself. We just get all these things for free. So I think Java has been improving a lot in terms of performance, reliability, and all those times, a lot of times people just kind of change the VM and you get all these things for free.
Right. Hopefully, yeah. That's why, I mean, if you looked, I'm not able to speak with authority on this, but one of the things that makes people inside of Oracle and outside a little bit nervous with regard to Jigsaw is that it's the first time that we've really made a change that you do have some potential user level impact that you have to deal with.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, but on the other hand,
manage it.
Yeah, on the other hand, since you mentioned Jigsaw, I was not going to go into this subject much, but since you mentioned Jigsaw, JavaEE 8, it's focused on Java 8.
Java SE 8.
Java
exactly,
SE 8, right?
So there's no relation.
So there's no relation immediately. But do you expect going forward that when Jigsaw it's really out and people are comfortable with, do you expect the JavaEE 9, for example, will actually use some of it for the application server somehow?
Well, I can put it this way. If we had Jigsaw or a modularity system, when we were doing JavaEE 6, it would be completely different. It would fundamentally influence how we design things.
Oh, all right.
I mean, because really, if you look at Java 1.0, you can see that the absence of a module system was something that is put as out of scope.
Right.
And it's a lesson of like, okay, if you take something out of scope at the beginning, well, you might take a long time before you finally get around to it.
Right.
And when you do, boy, is it going to be hard.
It's going to be hard, right? Yes, exactly.
But my point is, it would very much have influenced how we did everything.
Okay.
I mean, but here's an even more concrete example. CDI came in to JavaEE in version 6. And if we had had CDI when we were designing JSF 1.0, it would totally have influenced how we designed JSF.
I see.
I mean, JSF would be completely different, completely more tightly focused. I mean, if I could redo JSF from scratch and do it based on CDI, we would do that. And that's one of the things why I think the MVC project, which is kind of, I think, a success story, where people might be like, oh, okay, well, it's not going to be an 8. It was supposed to be in JavaEE 8, and it was moved out to the community. Well, the community now has the chance to own it and develop and take it forward. And they are using CDI and JAX-RS, in fact, as the foundation of it.
Right. And we had a very nice conversation on this series of videos here on JavaEE 8, the next frontier. We had a talk with Ivar, right? So, you know, if you wanna hear more about MVC, I was gonna put here below on the links, so you can actually see the interview with Ivar, where he talked a lot about MVC.
Right.
Okay. But you know, I wanna have a little bit of discussion at the end in terms of career. But since you mentioned this, you know, if those technologies had come along, we would do things differently. Let me kind of sidestep a little bit here and bring a career subject here. Every time we hear this thing, it looks like, well, you know, so we could have thought better, right? In the past, we didn't think better then, and but that's not really true, right? Because really, you're doing the best you can with what you have,
right? And
then when a new thing comes along, you can improve because there's a new thing, and a lot of times people kind of get frozen, trying to be perfect. So they never do anything because it's never perfect enough, and there's always something to add. And every time you do something, you learn something new, and then you change the way you think, and then you can do something new again. But you know, I think when you say like that, if CDI had come along, but maybe it couldn't come along because the other things that had to happen, right? So how do you handle all these things?
Well, it's what I like to point back, which is the 5 orders of ignorance that I mentioned. This guy Philip Armour in the communications of the ACM many years ago, and I covered it in the Rockstar Programmers book I wrote, where it's basically 0th order ignorance is knowledge, lack of ignorance. You know, I know how to program in Java. 1st order ignorance is lack of knowledge. I don't know how to program in Kotlin, but it seems pretty hot, so I can go learn it. And 2nd order ignorance is, well, I don't know about a thing that even is called Kotlin, but I know how to discover that there's something called Kotlin, and then I do know about it, and so then I can reduce it from 2nd to 1 to 0. And then 3rd order ignorance is you don't know that there's Kotlin, and you have no way of discovering that there is such a thing as Kotlin. So you don't know that you don't know, and you have no way of knowing that you don't know that you don't know. That's 3rd order ignorance. And 4th order ignorance is the ignorance of the orders of ignorance, which you don't have anymore because I just explained it to you. But the reason I'm mentioning all of this in the context of your question is software, the interesting software anyway, is what gets written in the 3rd order ignorance space. And you know, we didn't know that we didn't have CDI.
Right.
But now we have it, and now we know, okay, we could have used it.
Right.
But we had something similar to it. I mean, the managed beans that we had in JSF 1.0 really was a full tilt dependency injection thing, and it came out at the exact same time as like Spring 1.0.
Okay.
So the beans, you know, faces config.xml, you could have this gigantic XML configuration syntax, which is kind of similar to what you have with the Spring.xml. And this was around the same time. So, you know, you just got to listen, put your ear to the ground, and kind of listen to what the industry trends are telling you. You know.
That's very cool, man. That's a huge career lesson right there. It's, you know, it's like, okay, all right. Of course, we're doing this on videos, right? So it's kind of unfair to you, but you know, you have to promise that you're going to come back to this discussion on the orders of ignorance in another video, another time, because that's such a great thing to do.
It is.
All right. Okay, so that's Servlet coming back here to technology. That's Servlet 4.0. Is there anything else on Servlet that you want to talk about, or this is like the best thing?
Let me see. Well, server push is the big one. We do want to mention community features, right? So I like holding it up there because I don't like that. I like doing it this way.
All right, okay.
Because
that's fine.
I don't like you messing with the camera. So community features. So we had this feature here. This is the mapping discovery feature that was contributed by Arjun Timms, who was a JSF expert group member, and he's been really active, super active on JSF as well as Bauke Schotz, two of our most valuable JSF expert group members. And this feature just allows a servlet application to discover how it was invoked, what was the mapping that it was used to invoke it, and it was came from the community side.
Okay, pretty cool. All right, so that allows you to do different things depending on the URL you
exactly. Are you prefix mapped? Are you suffix mapped? What was the pattern that was matched? That kind of thing.
All right, pretty cool. All right, so the other things that we're going to talk about. You're going to talk about JavaSurface or JAX first?
Let's do JAX-RS.
Right? JAX, okay.
Yeah.
So JAX-RS is what, version 2.1,
2.1 we're coming out with here. This is
oops,
that's weird. I must have pressed a key.
Yeah, right.
There it is.
All right, okay.
So JAX-RS 2.1.
Do I need to hold it here?
No, I got it.
All right, okay.
I don't want to knock over the beer though. You grab the beer.
Let me get the beer out here.
All right.
So
JAX-RS 2.1 is the most recent version here, and you can see the features we've got. Actually, let me make a quick change of that.
Okay.
There's something I need to change here. Let's get rid of this. So we drop that. That is more accurate.
Okay. All right. Okay. Here. Right.
There we go.
All right. Good. Okay.
So reactive client and server sent events. Those are basically the two big new features that we've got in here.
Okay.
And
so reactive clients. So I mean, the whole reactive discussion is going on very strongly, right?
Right. So one of the things when people think about REST, they usually think about responding to, like, it's a server thing, right? A server is responding to REST requests that are coming from usually a browser, but really a lot of REST that's happening nowadays is service to service. So you have a microservices architecture, and they're talking REST between all the services, and that opens up a huge new realm of things. You got the whole HDOS thing, and the ability to have hypermedia, which you can have self-describing APIs, and there's very exciting things that are going on there. But JAX-RS has always had a client API, so it's not just a server thing, it's also a client thing. So you could have your JAX-RS service that's talking to another JAX-RS service. So on one side it's a server, but on the other side it's a client.
Right.
And the client API has that, supports that feature rather. So this is what the client API looks like before they've added the reactive. You can see here they're basically making 3 simultaneous requests.
Show this. I think it's better because then you can point on the code right there. Yes.
So you're submitting 3 requests asynchronously, and then you have to sort of conglomerate them all together, right? So JAX-RS supports JavaEE 8, and that of course means you've got completable future, and it's ready-made for reactive use. It's ideal for doing this sequential reactive invocation. So here I'll show how you can make responses from server 1 and server 2, combine the results, and then call server 3 and print out the response.
All right.
So here the only thing that's different is we're throwing in this RX thing, and then the whole thing doesn't block until you get down towards the bottom. So it's all asynchronous until you actually make the call to read the results. Response completion stage, then accept. So that's the reactive client API.
All right. So why do you think this is important for developers right now? Is just
It's important because if you're using JAX-RS, if you're using REST in a microservices environment, it's no longer acceptable to do blocking I/O. You have to be non-blocking. You have to be reactive, and so this is the only way to do that.
excellent, perfect. Yeah. So and then the other feature said server sent events,
right? So we can show that right here.
Okay. We got this.
So server sent events has been around for a long time, but this is what it looks like at the diagram level.
It has been around a long time at
the W3C, and in browsers, it's supported for a long time.
Okay.
So you can see the client is making a GET request, and the server is coming back with text event stream, which leaves the connection open, and then it can send any number of events back. And so these events are delivered as individual messages. And so on the server side, you would have your JAX-RS endpoint listening at this path, server sent events, and you would inject this server sent events resource. This SSE is a new class in the JAX-RS API. And again, this is in progress, so it may have changed by the time you see this.
Okay.
So here, we make a GET request to the server sent events path. We respond with a media type server sent events, and this is basically the event sync. We return the event sync, and the system knows how to return that, right? That this is an event sync a class that's a part of the API. And then you can have another method that issues a post and adds a message and sends it back. So you can just send, it doesn't have to come from a post. You could have some kind of internal thing that is sending these events. But the event sync is what you do on Next. And on Next, that's just one of the Java SE 8 Flow API things. So you can see that it's got the publish subscribe thing that's part of the Doug Lee concurrency flow module thing. We've got. So that's another example of here where we are just sort of sending progress updates. We're doing a sleep and sending several different on next events, and then we'll send in close.
Okay.
On the client side, though, as I said, everything in JAX-RS has to be both client and server. Here we have the ability to consume an event source, and you subscribe to the subscription, and then you keep getting, here we're sending the posts, and then I think on the next slide, actually I don't have it on that slide, you are getting the responses back.
Okay.
Okay. Consume events via subscription.
All right. So again, why developers need this, and you said it's been around for a long time, but
server sent events is just something that application developers have become accustomed to for a long time.
Right.
Now we finally got support for it in the specification.
Oh, okay. So could you do it before, and it's easier now, or you could not do it before? You had to do it, go through hoops to do it.
You had to go through some hoops. It wasn't that hard, but it's easier now.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's cool. All right. So that was JAX-RS 2.1, and the specification that I think you have most involvement with.
Yes.
Is Java Server Faces, right?
Right.
And Java Server Faces has gone through a lot of changes on this release, or
yes,
just
it's an incremental release. Lots of small changes. So a large number of small changes. And this release was absolutely done probably 90% by the community, maybe
cool.
even more.
Nice.
So we really turned it over to them in large part to let them really kind of see what they want in there and drive it. And we've kind of just been, Manfred and I have been kind of the shepherds to guide things in.
All right.
So we could take a quick look at these if you want to move the camera.
Okay, right, cool. So let's see what's going on Java Server Faces then.
Yes. So we had really, I mentioned if we had CDI at the beginning, we would have done JSF differently. Well, we didn't, but we did the best we could in terms of having better CDI integration. So way more things are injectable. We do have WebSocket integration. WebSocket was built into JavaEE 7. And now we can actually take advantage of it in JavaEE 8. We have a f:\websocket tag that lets you push events from the server to the client using WebSocket. We have AJAX method invocation. That's the ability to use AJAX to invoke a method, get the response, and you know, basically call a managed bean without having to go to the view tier, so to speak.
Okay. And what else?
We had class level bean validation, Java time support, which is a part of Java SE 8.
Right.
So we finally had to have support for that. And so let's see. We want to look at some of the code?
Yeah, sure.
So I mentioned the WebSocket push. So here we have a form with a button, and the button's value is push, and it invokes this action. And then we have a WebSocket, which declares this onMessage function, and which is defined down here in the script. So all that does is says document get LMD form button, set the value of the button to the message. So we're just pushing a message up.
Right.
And we declare a channel. So the channel is, you can have any number of channels when you're dealing with WebSocket. So this is important. You have to declare a channel. So this means you can have many different push things happening in the same page, and they don't step on each other's toes, for example. And we're just showing a few different permutations of using WebSocket with a button and also with AJAX as well. Okay. So this is what the managed bean looks like that does this. So you inject this push context, and you're able to send the messages. So here on the managed bean side, we're actually sending the different things down view.send. So we see we have all these different channels: push, user, and view. And if we look back on the previous page, we have user and view and push right there. So 3 different channels, so to speak. And you know, we're pushing those.
Okay. All right. So that's making it a lot easier to do all those things, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty cool.
And AJAX method invocation here. This is the other one where there's a new tag h:\command script, which basically lets you invoke a managed bean method and get the result and do something with it here. So we're taking the result and we're using the result over here.
Okay.
So we didn't have that before.
All right.
Yeah, we could go in, but I think it's a little too low level for this format.
That's fine. Okay. So again, you know, our why question, right? So what are the things that you think that developers need? Well, so let me ask like a more generic why question, right? All of those things in JavaEE, are they things that developers really need and they make their lives easier, or is just like a lot of bloatware that we are adding to JavaEE just to say that we are the cool kid on the block?
I think they're definitely things people need. Let's go with this. Let's take it spec by spec. On the servlet side, there's no question that we had to do HTTP2 and Servlet 4.
Right.
You know, that's just if you looked at the top 10 Alexa sites, Alexa is an Amazon. Well, it's their Echo thing, but before it was their website search sort of power website ranking list. And I did a little experiment the other day looking using the Chrome Net Inspector tab to see which of the Amazon Alexa top 10 websites were using HTTP2 in their main page, and 8 of the top 10 were using it.
Okay.
The only 2 were these 2 from China, Baidu, and there was some other eBay thing, I think, from China, that wasn't using HTTP2. My point in bringing that up is we had to have HTTP2 in JavaEE 8.
Okay.
And so the place where that is, it's got to be Servlet. So that's not bloatware.
Okay.
On the JSF side, all of the features we had were actually contributed by the community. So I'm going to trust the community. If the community says we need this, you know, and it doesn't look completely out of whack, and it fits in the model of what JSF is supposed to be, then I'll take them at their word and say we need it.
Right, sure.
So if it's bloatware, that's the community that did it.
Okay. well, if people are niche, they're using it and they are having real needs and they're taking their time to contribute, right?
Right. And as far as JAX-RS, a lot of the features that are in it are already in Jersey in some form, and we are just oh, sorry, I'm shaking the table. They're already in Jersey in some form, and we're just sort of upgrading them, or pushing them up into the spec level.
Okay. Very cool. All right. So in the end, there's a lot of cool stuff in JavaEE 8, and I'm very, very glad that's this whole process is coming to an end, and we're gonna have a new release very soon.
Yeah.
Do you expect once the release comes out in a couple of months, right? Do you expect that a lot of vendors are gonna come out right after it with their new application servers, or that's something that we should spend?
It takes a little time, but we're certainly expecting it, because the IBM has been very active on the trailer discussion on Servlet, and they wouldn't be paying attention unless they really caring about it. Red Hat, of course, has been also very active on the Servlet side. The server push feature itself was contributed, or the design of it was contributed in large part by Greg Wilkins from Jetty. So they're a Servlet implementation, even though they're not a JavaEE implementation.
Right.
So that's the thing about Servlet. It's like it goes outside of JavaEE. Like, and of course, Mark Thomas from Tomcat is going to have it as well.
Okay.
So Servlet 4 adoption very soon.
Cool.
As far as broader JavaEE 8 adoption, that might take a little longer.
Okay. Yeah, that's normal, right? So application servers it's a huge market, huge companies involved, and a lot of the companies that are using it are also huge companies, so it sometimes takes a little time. All right. Okay. So, I think that's pretty much. Is there anything else that I forgot? Oh, there is one thing. So, you mentioned that there's a lot of contribution Java surfaces from the community,
right?
And do you think there's still, because we're doing this conversation here towards the end of the process, do you think there's still anything that whoever's watching us right now can help to contribute to JavaEE, or all the contribution already done and there's nothing that a person can do?
The thing that I've been telling people, because people have asked me about adopted JSR for Servlet 4, and I would like to get people to play with and try the server push feature.
Right.
Another thing that I'd love to see people do is try this HTTP2 trailers. I'm sorry, I've said HTTP2. It's not just HTTP2. HTTP trailers feature. If you're doing, browsers don't support it, right? So if all you're doing with Servlet is serving to a browser, trailers doesn't do anything for you.
Right.
But if you're having service communication, trailers can be useful.
Very cool.
I'd like to see people try that.
Okay. So do you think that's there is some little project someone could do to experiment with that, or you prefer like a real big thing?
I have an idea that I've cooked up in my head, and I talked to Ray Tsang about this from Google. He's one of their developer advocates who does a lot of talking about Google Cloud and also gRPC. I would love, and this was actually kind of an idea that was given to me by Simone Bourdet, and it's kind of a nebulous form, and I kind of refined it a little bit. I'd love to see it if someone could take gRPC and somehow make it so you could have a gRPC client that talks to a JavaEE backend without having to generate any of the server-side stubs. So it would just kind of, you annotate your CDI bean, it would kind of automatically expose itself as a gRPC endpoint using the Servlet 4 trailer support. I don't know if that's possible, but I'd like to see if we could try it.
Okay, that could be a interesting experiment. So if you are interested in playing around with it, maybe you could find some people in your Java user group and get in contact with Ed, or get in contact with me, and I'll help you get in contact with Ed. Just see, if you're gonna work on this project and see a little bit more of this. Do you have like a blog post explain what you want?
I'm working on it.
Okay,
I want to get it together with Ray and sort of woodshop the idea a little bit more.
Nice. Okay. All right. So Ed, do you mind if I kind of completely switch gears here and we talk a little bit? There's one topic that I'll be honest with you. There's one topic that I've been really dying to come talk with you. And for me, I'm a server-side guy, so for me it's very interesting to see everything that's going on with JavaEE, and I follow JavaEE very closely and everything. But you wrote a fantastic book, right, about Rockstar Programmers.
Thank you.
And so I never had a chance to actually talk with you, about not only about the book, but about everything that surrounds being a Rockstar programmer.
Okay.
So do you mind if we talk a little bit about
Sure.
career?
But I'm not a Rockstar programmer. I just interview them.
Right. Well,
I'm
okay.
not one myself.
So that's what the situation I think I am into, right? So I interview people like you.
Yeah, we
right?
are.
You know, so that's great. No, I'm not. I don't want to ask about being a Rockstar programmer, but you've been with lots of Rockstar programmers. So and I think that it's funny because developers do want to become better developers all the time. You go in events and everyone wants to improve their career. Everyone wants to work on cool projects. Everyone wants to do this, right? And then you had the chance of interviewing some of the top Rockstar programmers in the world. So what does it take to be a Rockstar programmer?
It takes a lot of the notion of being a servant leader, I think, is the most important
servant leader
aspect of us. And there's plenty of, if you search that term, that's a very popular term. But it comes back to having the right mix of humility and pride. So if you're really convinced that you know the best way to do something, that's a pretty prideful way. But in order to get that idea adopted and sort of get other people excited about it, you have to have a little bit of humility as well.
Of course.
So it's having that mix of the two things, having the idea, but not being so boastful about it that people are like, this guy, he's here to talk about his thing again.
Right. Yes. Yes. I think it comes along. The one thing that we see a lot with speakers or some other people, like the me attitude, right? So he comes on stage to talk about me and my project, my things, and me, and so every time people do this, they kind of get put off.
I know, that's one of the things I'm a little annoyed at, this trend I've seen some people do where they, before they give a talk, they'll take a selfie with the audience in the background. That is, to me, the opposite of humility. It's like, oh, look at this, I'm standing in front of all these people. So that's not a Rockstar programmer move.
All right,
to go and take the selfie with the crowd.
Okay, but you know what's interesting for me is that I asked you what it takes to be a Rockstar programmer, and the first thing you talk about is a non-technical skill. Right. Is that? I mean, if you only focus on technical skill, you're not going to be a Rockstar programmer?
I think not. I think you can go super far, but the real ones, the Rockstar programmers that I talked to, they had all that. Right. So their technical chops is a given. Right? Like, if you look in the realm of music, for example, you just have to, you're not worried about playing scales fast or being able to site transpose. You've got all that.
Right.
What separates the great musicians from the super awesome ones is like what goes on top of that. So the technical chops, they're a given. They have to be good. They have to be top notch, not just good. They have to be top notch.
Okay. All right.
But the Rockstar programmers are the ones that have all that and a little extra.
Okay. All right. Cool. So basically, technology gets you into the game.
Right.
Right. But if you want to be, if you want to really step up the game, you have to do more in technology.
Right.
That's very cool.
Because at the end of the day, it's people that are interacting.
Right.
And you're building software with people.
Right. Yeah, that's the one thing I like to talk about lots is that, software development, a lot of developers, they get into software development because they say, oh, I'm not very good with people, I'm going to do computers. But the truth is, software development is done by people, for people, managed by people. Right. I mean, with marketing people. I mean, it's people everywhere,
right? It is the most collaborative discipline. Yeah. Maybe filmmaking is more so, but it's very collaborative.
Yeah, right. So basically, you guys, if you just think that you can, put your heads down and just do the technology, it's gonna get you far, but not as far as you could get if you do a little bit more than that.
Right.
Cool. Very nice.
And another aspect is, and I talked about this with Adrian Collier in the Rockstar book, is what separates the Rockstar programmer from the regular one is the Rockstar programmer understands the business application of it.
Nice.
So they have the domain experience and the ability to sort of see the software inside any system that they're presented with in the real world,
Right.
and see how that software ties back to the domain of the business in question. And if you are building software for a specific company, for your own enterprise, you have to have a deep understanding of how that, what puts the money in the bottom line,
Right.
and how can software accelerate that.
Right. So basically, that is when we're discussing all the technology we were talking before. Every time you mention the whys, right? Is that basically what you're talking about?
The whys?
Yeah, because we say why this technology is needed.
Yes.
Right. So you are actually very able to explain to people not only the technology but why it's needed.
That's what.
Right?
That's the skill, right?
Yeah. You say you're not Rockstar Programmer, right? But seen from, well, I know you for a long time,
Right.
And I know how capable you are in terms of doing technology, and I know how capable you are in terms of doing, you're spec lead, so you're very capable of actually getting people from the community and engaging on effective discussions, and you put out there software that millions of people use, right?
Well,
so,
I work on a team. That
right,
does
you're
it.
on a team that does
Right.
that, right? So, and then when you say that you're not Rockstar Programmers, does that mean that no one else can be a Rockstar Programmer? Because if you're not,
Well,
what
that's the
does that
thing.
mean, right?
It's the title, right?
Right.
In fact, when I gave the Rockstar Programmer talk at GoTo a couple weeks ago, they're like, we don't really like that title, so we changed the title to Secrets of the Above Average Programmers.
Okay, right.
But that's not as catchy a title.
Yes, it is.
Above Average versus Rockstar,
Yeah.
doesn't get people inspired as much.
Right. Yes. So it's funny because a lot of people don't like, you're saying Rockstar. So you
Right.
get the Rockstar Award, Java 1. You have a book about talking about Rockstar.
Right. Yeah.
I do have a program called the Celebrity Developer, right? And then people also say to me, oh, but I'm not a celebrity developer. But in the end, all those titles is just ways that we are saying, you are a developer, that you can work on great projects, you can work with great people, right? Because there's a lot of developers out there that they're kind of stuck in their situation, and they're not working interesting projects, they're not working with interesting people, and they don't see a way out. Right, so don't you think that a Rockstar developer or a celebrity developer is someone that has the opportunities to work on great things?
Well, actually, I think of the Rockstar Programmer as someone who draws other good programmers to themselves. So if you're a developer and you're in a corporation and you're feeling stuck, it's time to start looking around on your team and say, okay, am I the smartest person in the room? And if the answer is yes, then it's time to move to get a different room, because you shouldn't ever be the smartest person in the room. So you need to keep switching till you find a place where you can kind of be an understudy.
Right. But it's a scary move, right? If you are like you put, the smartest person in the room, it means that you are in a position that you're comfortable with it, and you are that the company values you because you are the smart person in that room. And if you move to another room that you're not the smartest person anymore, that's very uncomfortable, isn't it?
It's uncomfortable, but you can't. You have to challenge yourself.
Right.
So growth. What's the famous Bob Dylan quote? If you're not busy being born, is busy dying, right? And if
that's a good quote.
It's Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
So if you're not challenging yourself, then you're at risk of becoming complacent. But life is a long song, and careers are long things too. And I think that IT is and computer science is one of those rare careers where you can actually get a whole life of work out of it.
Right.
A lot of these studies are saying, by the time, if you're entering the workforce now, you'll have 12 different jobs by the time you retire. Maybe so, but if you're in computers, they'll kind of all be kind of computer-related jobs, or they could be. There's enough opportunity there to do that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I got a question the other day from I don't remember the name of the person right now, but and he was asking, I'm growing in my career, and so my company now is wanting me to choose where do I go? If I'm going to go into sales, if I'm going to go into if it's even possible for me to be like an internal engineer, or should it be a manager? Do you get a lot of these? I mean, is a Rockstar programmer having to worry about eventually becoming a salesman, or does is it like the way to grow is becoming a manager? How do you see this?
I see it as being fueled by the increasing trend towards freelancing and people being their own contractors.
Okay.
That you don't see that as much in large companies like Oracle, but in the startup world, it's much more common to have people that are just, they come in and out and they're hired guns, kind of, and that lets you really always have complete control over how you're challenging yourself or not.
One last question. I'd like to ask this question because I think that's one of the best ways for us to grow in our careers, that we see what other people did. I know every career is different, and you just mentioned that career is like a long-term process, right?
Right.
So you're always building yours, right?
I'm mid-career. I mean, here's the crazy thing. I mean, I entered the workforce in '95, so I'm only 20 years in.
All right.
I got many more miles to put on this car before I can hang it up, and I'm like, man, how's that gonna be? So I got to figure something out.
Right.
Yeah. So anyhow, you were what you're saying.
No, but I love this idea that the career is something that you have to work on all the time, because if you don't work on it, right, it's where it's gonna get, right?
Right.
But do you see anything that happened in your career, right? Something that you weren't doing before and you decided to do, or something that you decided to follow that completely changed your career, that opened up so much more possibilities that you say, oh man, that was big change for me.
Absolutely, and that was one of the things that I asked all the Rockstar developers about that. It was either, and their answer was either a person or a technology.
Okay.
So in my case, it was the very total luck of having to be doing my undergrad at University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign at the time when NCSA Mosaic was being developed.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And
was developed there?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And so the fact that one of my first programming jobs was as a student programmer working on Mosaic was like a big deal. And so I knew so many people that went on and did, amazingly great things. I've just done a tiny little thing, but like people have done amazingly great things because of that, because of being a part of that group. And it was just like being there when everything exploded. But it doesn't have to be a technology. It could be a person that you meet that kind of opens it up. It might be a manager that you had that you just really clicked with and sort of nurtured your skills in a way that you could really grow. Or it could be a coworker that you've met that is, like one pattern that commonly happens is a person has an idea, they leave the company, they found a startup, and then after they're off the ground, they bring all their posse with them from the big company to the startup. So that happens too.
Okay. Yeah. So for you then, it was working on
it was on Mosaic.
Right.
Yeah.
And you working on it because you did something and you got into that team, or just completely luck?
I was able to talk to a college buddy of mine who was already on it as well, and get a job as a student programmer on it as well.
All right. So your network.
Yes, the Invisible College. Right. So the Invisible College is this term that emerged in the Middle Ages, and I talk about it in the Rockstar book, which is Copernicus and Kepler and all of those old guys would collaborate by sharing books, which were a very scarce resource then, and they would share margin notes in the books and pass the books around between themselves. So this is before there was email. So the only way they communicate was letters and margin notes in books. And so that sort of formed this term Invisible College, and I consider that to be your network.
Right. Okay. All right. So Ads, I can't thank you enough. There has been a great conversation.
Thank you.
And thanks very much.
My pleasure.
I do have your book signed by you, so it's like,
thank you. I appreciate it.
I got that part. I got that part done, right? So thanks very much. And I don't think your book's in print anymore, is it?
You can get it. Actually,
you can get it, right?
You can. I'm selling it. Actually, it's out of print, but they actually Amazon, my publisher McGraw-Hill has it in print on demand.
Oh, cool.
So I'm actually
Nice.
selling it on my website. So if
Okay,
you're curious
excellent.
about getting the book, go to writingthecrest.com.
Yeah, all right.
Maybe you can put that in the links.
Yeah, so I'm gonna put this on the links below here. So yeah, it's an amazing conversation with what he may not consider, but I consider one of the top Rockstar developers. Ads has been an influence for me. All the things that he's been done. I'm part of the JCP, and I look towards Ads for the things that he does as a spec lead, as a way, for me to judge other spec leads, right? Because he's doing such a great work.
Oh, you're very kind. Thank you.
And all the things that all the code that he writes, all the things that impacts all my life, because I am a JavaEE developer, and more specifically, everything that he teaches on the Rockstar Programmers book. It's amazing because we're going to help you become, get your career better. Thanks a lot, Adam.
All right, thank you.
Very, very much.
Thank you.
Excellent.
All right.
Okay.